Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our online workshop today called Gain Access to Capital with PIDC. So this is the second and final event in our series called Driving Business Growth in a Recovering Economy series. My name is Arthur Jimenez. I'm the Senior Business Development Officer at PIDC, and I'll be your host. In this workshop, you will hear from business owners who have overcome challenges in a recovering economy. We will hear also great tips on how to successfully navigate through the pandemic as a business owner. You will learn how to leverage resources to grow and scale your business, receive information from funding your business from organizations like ours, like PIDC, understand how to link learning to action, and also learn how to grow your business by accessing contract opportunities from local anchor institutions. At this time, I want to thank our partners. Can we go to the next slide, please? I think our partners have helped us make this event possible. Our partners are Independence Blue Cross, AmeriHealth Caritas, Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Businesses, and the Economy League of Greater Philadelphia. Well, several months ago, we came together and brainstormed how we could assist small business in today's challenging economy, and we came up with the Driving Business Growth, the Recovering Economy series. The first event really focused on the comprehensive business education curriculum and cohort learning model of the Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Business Program. And today we will focus on how to access capital from CDFIs or community development financial institutions like PIDC. Now at this time, I'd like to turn it over to one of our partners, Chuck Stefanowski, Supplier Diversity Director at Independence Blue Cross, so he can share a few words. Take it away, Chuck.
Thank you, Arthur. And on behalf of Independence Blue Cross, I'd like to welcome you to this exciting event. As Arthur mentioned, this event was put together as a result of a collaboration with all of our partners. And I got to tell you, what a powerhouse group of folks. Great to work with, really well-meaning, just an awesome group that we pulled both these events together, really over about a 6 to 8 week period. A real pleasure to work with. And I just really want to thank everybody for everything that you do every day to make a difference in our region. It's been a true pleasure to work with each of you to develop this event. And I'd like to introduce Sharon Manker from AmeriHealth Caritas to say a few comments.
Thank you, Chuck. Good morning, everyone. So I'm actually joining you guys from the WeBank conference. So thank you for attending this webinar. The importance it brings to knowing that there are resources to access the capital and information for diverse suppliers in our area is more than we could ask for. We need organizations like PIDC to make sure that diverse suppliers in our area have information and access to resources to start to grow and to maintain and sustain their business in the city. We have a long-term goal and strategy at AmeriHealth Caritas to make sure that we are helping entrepreneurs and business owners create an economic impact in communities where we live, work, and serve. And so for that effort, we partner with organizations like PIDC to make sure that we bring this information through these webinars and through sharing information on social media and via email to move the needle. So thank you guys for all that you do. Please look at our contact information in the chat, and we'll also put in information on how to connect with our registration process in our portal. It is not a black hole. Every form comes directly to me, so it's not going to this space where no one will respond to you. But I am an army of one, so please be patient. I'm going to now introduce Kenyatta James from the Dynamic Economy League, who I've had the opportunity over the weekend to spend some time with some of their partners. So Kenyatta, can you let us know about the PAGE initiative in the Economy League?
Absolutely. So I'm Kenyatta James. I'm the director of PAGE. PAGE is Philadelphia Anchors for Growth and Equity, and it really is a supplier diversity collaborative. Some of the stakeholders in the city, they looked at what was happening and they said, you know what? We're not where we want to be when it comes to supplier diversity. We are a city that is majority minority, and our business community doesn't reflect that. And there's things that we can do as institutions to make the change so that that doesn't always have to be the case. So organizations like Independence Blue Cross, University of Pennsylvania, the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, Jefferson Hospital System and University, and the Temple Hospital System and University all came together and said, you know what? Let's pool our resources to make a change. And that was the creation of the PAGE program within the Economy League. Our goal is to work with these institutions to help better understand who are potential suppliers, how to change processes and policies to make it easier to work with diverse and local suppliers. This could be anything from breaking up longstanding contracts to helping to set up better corporate partnerships and all sorts of other steps, as well as just making sure that they're aware of some of the suppliers that are out there. And doing this work, one of the constant pieces of feedback that I received was that there's not enough coordination in Philadelphia's small business support community. Everyone has a relationship with a couple of different places, maybe PIDC, maybe Goldman Sachs, maybe the Enterprise Center, maybe with us at Page. But people don't know how we all work together, what exactly to go to which organization for, and how to smoothly move from one set of support to another to effectively grow their business. So I'm really excited about these events and the relationships that we've been able to build by working together, because I think that it brings us one step closer to that vision of a more unified business support environment in Philadelphia, especially for minority and women-owned businesses. I would like to also add that Page has a grant program called the Hurdle Fund that covers third-party costs that prevent small businesses from doing business with large institutions. Things like an expensive piece of equipment, high insurance cost, some sort of special certification, or something else that might make it hard. So if you are a small business and you're looking at working with an institution, but the insurance costs are too high, or there's some other concern, please reach out to me. I'll be sharing my contact information in the chat throughout the event. Thank you all, and I would like to introduce our fearless leader in these endeavors, Fran McNeil.
Thank you. And thank you, everyone, and welcome. My name is Fran McNeil. I'm the Executive Director of the Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Businesses Program, located at the Community College of Philadelphia. And we are really excited to offer to small business owners who meet the qualifications a 14-week free education program that will help you grow your business, that will help you think differently about growing your business, and will help you increase your revenue, add more full-time employees, and make an impact on the community. And so we're really excited to partner with Page and PIDC and organizations like Independence Blue Cross and AmeriHealth Caritas to have created and supported over 700 small business owners in the Philadelphia region. And so today's panel represents individuals who have participated in the program, whose partners have participated in the program, and who are PIDC clients. And so with that, I want to get everyone ready to hear a very dynamic panel. Make sure you put your contact information in the chat and that you think about what your questions are as the panelists are talking, because there will be Q&A at the end. Arthur?
Thanks, Fran. This is the time now we're going to talk to our amazing panelists. So I will just call out their names and I'll let them introduce themselves. We have Jeanette Hernandez Harris, a partner of Financial Integrity Resources Management, Lynn Thomas, the owner of EMSCO Super Office Solutions. We also have Natasha Strother Ladzer, Chief Strategy Officer of Strother Enterprises. And last but not least, we have Pecha Chang, owner of Walton Vine. So let's start with Jeanette. If you can tell us about a little about your business and how are we able to navigate your business in this recovering economy?
Hi there. Thank you, Art, for, first of all, I wanted to thank PIDC for the invitation to participate in this panel. My name is Jeanette Hernandez Harris. I'm partner of Financial Integrity Resources Management. Financial Integrity is celebrating in August their 20th year in business. I am a alum of cohort 6 of 10K, life-changing event for me as an organization. So what we do is we do financial benefits, investment, retirement, insurance, and actuarial services. I know that's a mouthful, but like we tell our clients as it relates to investments, diversification is really important. And I think the diversification of our business being in retirement space or investment space or insurance space, it really helped maintain our business. When the 2008 fall of, crisis in the market, we had other types of businesses or types of contracts that help support our standing, continuing to stand, as well as now the pandemic. With the pandemic, we really had to find a different way to do business. And so, I also want to publicly thank Marla Hamilton and PIDC for the amazing work that they did in keeping us informed as it related to the PPP loans and all of the funding sources that were available to us as small businesses in such a time of uncertainty and a lot of, chaos for everyone. And we were all trying to figure it out. And you guys did an amazing job to kind of put the information out and just keep us informed. And I am very grateful for that, for that commitment that you guys showed to us. I also wanted to share, we were PIDC clients, but we are also PIDC. PIDC is a client of ours. So we help PIDC with their investment selections as it relates to their retirement accounts. We provide education and communication to PIDC folks that are making decisions as it relates to PIDC's employees' retirement account. So thank you for that opportunity as well.
Thanks, Jeanette. How about you, Lynn? Can you introduce yourself, your business, and and how you were able to navigate through our recovering economy? Can you unmute yourself, Lynn?
Okay, great. Good
There you
morning,
go.
Arthur.
Good morning.
Yes, and good morning to everyone, the sponsors and the panelists, as well as the all the individuals that are on the line listening. Lynn Thomas, really instead of owner, I would say one of the partners, founders of Super Office Solutions, Inc., which owns IMSCO Scientific Enterprises. And saying, first of all, just giving honor to God, thank everyone for being here this morning. You kind of noticed that I don't have a cohort designation under my name, and that is because one of my partners, Ken Carter, one of the founders of our company, unfortunately passed in 2021 due to COVID back in August, but he in fact was one of the cohorts of the Goldman Sachs 10,000 program, Ken Carter. Some of you all may know him. And I was just asked to comment on how our company pretty much benefited as well through that program. And we did. And that is because Ken, who served as president and chief operating officer of our company, and I serve as chairman and CEO, had an opportunity to bring the skills that he learned from the Goldman Sachs 10,000 cohort back to our company. And at the time, we were Super Office Solutions Inc. We acquired IMSCO Scientific Enterprises, an enterprise that was much larger than us. And the skills that he was able to learn and pick up from that Goldman Sachs encounter was beneficial to our company overall, with the concepts we had while we were at that time in the midst of an acquisition of a company that was pretty much 3 times to 4 times larger than our existing enterprise. So Supra, what are we involved in? Super Office Solutions Inc. itself is an office products, office furniture company. And when you think of a Staples or Office Depot, that's the space that we operate in. Other than in the retail side of the business, those companies have business to business segments of their enterprise, and we're on the B2B side. So we have customers such as the University of Pittsburgh and Blue Cross Blue Shield, South Carolina, the Blue Cross Blue Shield, national enterprise that kind of oversees all the other Blue Cross Blue Shields out of Illinois, and other customers of that type on the office supply side of our enterprise, and a whole host of independent companies as well. We compete against them as well. Universal Charter Schools, KIPP Charter Schools, and other independent enterprises are our customers as well. On the other side of that coin is IMSCO Scientific Enterprises, and IMSCO has an odd name, it would seem, and the reason is because it stands for Evelyn Miner Scientific Company, and Miss Miner, who is an African-American woman interested enough, founded IMSCO in 1980, so 42 years ago today, not today, but 42 years ago. And Miss Miner started the company as a chemical company, essentially, and grew it over the years. She's an icon. And back in 2015, approximately 7 years ago, she wanted to sell. And we were beneficial to be sharing space in the same office building, the Philadelphia Business and Technology Center on West Parkside at the time. And became aware, and we were able, myself, Ken, have another partner, Derek Suswell, and Ismail Shahid. The 4 of us who had founded Supra were able to acquire IMSCO. IMSCO sells laboratory and research supplies. So if you imagine someone at the University of Penn, for instance, engaged in cutting edge research to cure cancer or Parkinson's or other debilitating diseases. In fact, working on COVID vaccines, those are our customers. So that's IMSCO, Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, Drexel University, Thomas Jefferson University, and also we sell chemicals and active ingredients to the pharmaceutical enterprises, as well as lab supplies. So Merck Pharmaceuticals is a customer, and Bristol Myers Squibb and other pharmaceutical enterprises. That's IMSCO. We're grateful also to PIDC. So thank you, Marla, and the PIDC organization, because they have been major funders of a new initiative that is a new 70,000 square foot building, office and warehouse tower on 9 acres of land that we were able to acquire and build a new facility from the ground up, which is hopefully will be occupying in September in the West Parkside area of the city, a few blocks from here, in an industrial park that's behind the Lowe's, the Lowe's home food. I'm getting a little bit tied up, but a home improvement center and is in the ShopRite in West Parkside. So those are some other benefits. PIDC was a major funder of that project and also the land we acquired from them. So that's a little bit on us. And, let me shut up for a moment, and hopefully anything that we can say that be helpful today, the other struggling enterprises, because I've had a lot of business failures getting to this point and a number of ups and downs. Thank you.
Thanks, Lynn, for sharing that. Natasha, why don't you tell us a little bit about your business, your background, your business, and also how you've been able to navigate this recovering economy.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you. Thank you, Arthur. Thank you, PIDC, for actually asking me to be a panelist. I didn't think I had much to share, but, thank you very much.
Of course.
Thank you. And thank you to our sponsors and the attendees that are on the call. So I am the second generation to Struther Enterprises. It was founded by Ernie and Robert Struther. We're a food and beverage company. We've been around for about 30 years. So we're minority owned, we're family owned, and we're a veteran owned company also. So we provide food and beverage to different clients. Some of our clients include different healthcare facilities where we actually come in, we hire the staff, we develop the menus, we provide the food most times, every day. It can be most of our clients, we provide food and beverage, every day, 3 meals a day, every day of the week for some clients, healthcare facilities, sports and entertainment, casinos, and even airports. I'll go back to when I was in 10,000 Small Businesses, and Fran was my advisor. And at the time, I didn't really think that airports would be my growth strategy. And coming to find out, that's been our growth strategy. So Struther Enterprises own and operates 2 subway franchises in the Philadelphia International Airport, one in the B terminal and one in the E terminal. And actually we'll be opening an in-house brand called Wing Kitchen, which is a Southeast Asian street food brand in mid-July. So we continue to grow in the airport business. So, like I said, almost 8 years ago, Fran, I was like, I don't know. And this is kind of where we are, but we continue to just build in the food and beverage space. So some things that, of course, we worked with PIDC to assist us with some funding through the pandemic, especially with the COVID Philly Fund and the COVID Philly grant. That was actually very helpful for us, and also PPP, the PPP loan. So our initial focus was to make sure that we trained our employees and kept our employees working. So a lot of that money, we didn't have to lay any of our employees off. And as you know, in the food and beverage industry, everything closed, the convention center, the airports closed. But during that time, we said, okay, let's focus on training our employees. So when we come back, they'll be ready to go and we'll be able to have improved services, and they'll learn new skills. So we focused on training, but we also built new relationships during that time, just getting ready and preparing ourselves for whatever was to come. But we were also very flexible. So during that time, we were able to open a new location at the Live Casino Hotel, where we managed their food and beverage operations there in their marketplace, and we also managed their team dining room area. So we just remained very flexible and open to kind of reinventing ourselves. I wouldn't say we totally reinvented ourselves, but we were just open to it. We were open to just different opportunities and maybe changing the way we were operating and thinking about different operating initiatives. But again, our employees were very important. And then also, again, being flexible and just building on our existing skill sets. So that's how we navigated. And also with the funding, without that, none of that would have been possible. So that's a little bit about us. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Natasha.
You're welcome.
Next, we have Pecha Chang, owner of Vault and Vine. Give you a little background about your business, yourself, and also how you've been able to navigate to the recovering economy.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm Pecha. I own Vault and Vine. We started back in 2009, first as Falls Flowers, and moved to a larger location and rebranded into Vault and Vine in 2017. So we've been Vault and Vine for the past 5 years. Our anniversary comes up in August. And, proud 10KSB cohort member, cohort 17. And gosh, I'm like so absorbed listening to everyone else's story. I sort of blanked out on my own. But we are a full service florist, which is how we started as Falls Flowers. And we expanded when we moved to Vault and Vine to include a greenhouse, a larger retail selection, and a cafe. And really our focus is on being as integrated into our community as possible. So we pride ourselves on being a third space in East Falls, if you're familiar with the concept of sort of home being your first space, work being your second, and the community areas being a third space. So really, I think, we started in a recession back in 2009, and we are still thriving through COVID. Really, our strategy has been connecting with the community. One of the big things that we did over COVID was invited a community fridge to share our space with us. So we host a community fridge in our entrance, and just focusing as much as possible on being a resource for our neighborhood and Philadelphia as a whole. And PIDC really was a huge part of that in helping us to fund our expansion back in 2017, and also stepping in when a traditional bank was really failing us and getting a loan through. And Marla, I have to thank for getting me into 10KSB. She came and said, wanted to meet, people, the business owners who the PIDC was funding, and just sat there in my office and said, you have to apply to 10KSB right now, and wouldn't leave my office until I opened an application and started filling it out. So PIDC has been like fundamental really in these last 5 years to the success of our business. So that's a short bit about us, but I'm excited to speak more about everything.
Thanks for that story, Paige. And that sounds like exactly what Marla would do, by the way. So totally believable. And let's I'll stick with you, and also Lynn, I'll ask you this question right afterwards. So you talked a little about PIDC. Could you give us a background of how you got connected to PIDC, and how did you build a relationship with your institution, with us? Like, how did you navigate that?
So it was pretty fortuitous. I am a member of the Sustainable Business Network in Philadelphia, which at the time, Heather Hanowitz, who I think at the time was a lending officer with PIDC, I had met her through a networking event at the Sustainable Business Network, and I just started talking, and I was telling her how I was trying to expand my business, and we were buying a building, and just trying to figure out all the financial aspects, like just money was like flying out the door, and I had no idea how to kind of try and get things together, because I knew that once the building was done, I would still needed operational money, funds to run operations, get staff in place. We expanded our team eightfold over the course of a couple months, and really needed the cash flow to help kick all of these things off, get the training in place before we even opened. And Heather was like, well, I mean, have you heard of PIDC? And I said, no. And she invited me into her office and meet some of the team and sit down, and she shared what they were able to do. And at the time I was trying to get a loan, an SBA loan through my local bank. But they were, as banks do, were being bought over and like taken over by a new bank and transitioning. And basically at that time, all my paperwork had fallen through, and I was desperate. And she got all the paperwork rolling for me, and they funded me in 4 weeks. It was incredible, because, really, if that hadn't come through, I would have, I don't think I'd be sitting here on the panel today, honestly. And so Heather was really my introduction in. And as Jeanette has mentioned, we have been, not only been the recipient of funding, but also a vendor for PIDC. Marla initiated pre-COVID, when everyone was still in the office, they would order flowers every couple of weeks and give them to staff in the office as tokens of appreciation or acknowledgement. And so, PIDC has just been a huge support network for us, inviting us onto panels and, being able to network really deeply with everything. So that's our story.
Thanks, Peja. How about you, Lynn? Actually, I don't know how you introduced PIDC.
Oh, yeah. So first of all, it's a long history with PIDC, but being very, very candid, I've probably been a business owner, entrepreneur, serial entrepreneur for probably almost 30 something years. So interesting enough, Marla and I go back to my prior life at Alpha Office Supplies, where I was one of the minority owners in Alpha Office Supplies, a minority business with a guy named James Brown, who was the founder for years, in which I actually know Chuck Stefanowski from IBC, who was a major customer of ours back then. I also want to just take one little second to step back also and mention the Strother family that Natasha's tied to. So I don't know if one is your dad and one is your uncle, but the two Strother brothers are actually good friends, guys that I know way back, and that family has a legacy of business services dating back many years. So I tip my hat to your family, and what you all have been able to accomplish, and the consistency of that business, providing catering services and in the food service industry for many, many, many years. But going back, Arthur, to answer your question, interesting enough, this building project that I mentioned, Marla and I go back, as she is a early representative of PIDC, when at Alpha, we actually had placed the first deposit back on a parcel of land back in that industrial park, maybe 15 years ago or so. And we were out there looking at that land and looking at that project, and we just weren't able to take off. So that is one of the issues. One of the benefits that we had, that's some of the early introduction of PIDC. Marla, of course, predates PIDC from her years as a representative of minority business services with the city of Philadelphia, and some of the early administrations. It may even been right preceding or right after the Good administration. I don't want to date you, Marla. But during those years, I want to say to the people on the line as business folks that are interested in PIDC before Marla got there, and in the earlier years of PIDC, they were not sensitive or responsive, in my personal opinion, as a small business person, to smaller and to minority businesses back then. And now there was a PCDC that was more responsive, and there were other enterprises, but PIDC had a reputation for only primarily financing and having a temperament to deal with only larger companies, the really large major companies, the Rouse companies, and some of these larger projects. They were not really sensitive to companies like ours, the ones that are in this panel today, and other companies. They've gone through a major sea change, and they're more acceptable. And I think part of it was they absorbed PCDC that was used to a portfolio of smaller companies than others. So I want to be very candid about that. And they've come a long way in that regard today. But those are, I go back many years to my years as an accountant in my earlier years as running an accounting firm to help minority firms, and during my years at Alpha Office Supplies of having interactions with PIDC.
Thanks, Lynn, for that history. Yes, PIDC has evolved, I would say, in the past 10 years to really focus on minority women-owned businesses. And, you know, PIDC has a 60+ year history. So, and it hasn't always been that way. So thanks for really highlighting that. I think our leadership really does now prioritize focus and prioritize supporting women on minority-owned businesses, and we only also just prioritize Philadelphia. So that's really still part of our core mission. Excuse me for a second. All right, next is so this question is for Jeanette and Natasha. Let's start with Jeanette. So before coming to PIDC, did you apply for financing elsewhere? And if you did, what kind of responses do you receive?
Yeah. So before coming to PIDC and actually even knowing about PIDC, we were trying to go through a bank, you know, a bank, the traditional kind of either to get a credit line or to get, you know, some funding, you know, a loan or whatever. We didn't actually receive our a line of credit or funding till after 13 years of us being in business. So the first 13 years of our business was anything that came in went right back into the business. And so it was very hard. And, you know, to maintain staff, maintain, you know, the lights on, you know, business location like office and stuff like that, it became very difficult. As a result of participating and being a member of the 10K small business, you know, program, it kind of made us aware of certain things and certain organizations that were available to us. And it kind of helped us understand, you know, in terms of the financial statements and how to bring to light the offerings of our business and the sustainability of our business, which I think we weren't doing a great job as it related to presenting to the banking, you know, the lenders. But the other thing is it kind of going through the program, it kind of helped us recognize that the banking institution that we were working with was not really friendly to us. And, you know, one of the things that we recognized was, you know, finding a banking institution that knew us as an organization that would come, you know, somebody that would come to our office and see, you know, we're not, you know, just because we're small in size doesn't mean that we're not doing things, because, you know, that's a misconception that, you know, you have to be big, you have to have, you know, all of these, you know, things in place. And the reality was that as a small business, we were doing a lot with the little bit that we had. And so it was, you know, as a result of understanding our business and working from our business from the outside in, which is, you know, if for those of you who are, you know, on this webinar, if you haven't, you know, applied for the 10KSB, it's a must, because I feel as though it really took us out of the business, took me out of the business, to kind of focus on the business, right? Because you're like stuck in the sand and you're just kind of plugging away, trying to get things done. But the reality is that you have to take time to look at your business from the outside in to be able to help your business grow. And so, you know, it's super important. It is, you know, an amazing program. It's amazing how once you go through the program, you know, the team just knows so much about your business, and really they're not giving you the solutions, but they're asking you thought-provoking questions that really help you kind of figure out what is best for your business, or you may have the thought in your mind, but they kind of bring it to light. And so I will say that was key. As a result of 10K, we learned about PIDC. We too, like Lynn mentioned, we knew Marla from a previous life when she was at the City of Philadelphia. And, when she started at PIDC, that's when we reconnected through the 10K SB, program. And so I think that the other thing was going through the program. I think it gave our company some more credence, like more credentials kind of, because they understood that we had been through the program and we understood what it meant, to run a business and the ins and outs of certain things. And so when we went to PIDC, we were kind of more organized in terms of the information that we were putting together, what they were asking for, presenting the business plan, the growth plan, and using those funds to, the other thing is, going through the 10KSB program, it kind of helped us identify for PIDC what the funds were going to be used for clearly, right? So the funds were used to change like technology and purchase computers and purchase a copier that would help us be more productive and not have to outsource the production of quarterly reports that we need to do for our clients. And so it really helped us redefine or clearly articulate what we needed as a business. And so that's kind of how we came to PIDC. Now, when we applied for our loan, it was all paper. It was a long process for us. It wasn't as quick. But I think, now recently they've kind of systemized everything, so it should be a easier process. I'm thankful that, we received the loan, we've paid it off, and, we may have to go back, ask for more funding in terms of, as we move on in terms of, the economy is growing, but it's not growing as quickly as we would like it, to be growing in terms of the work that we do. But there's a little glimmer of hope there.
Yeah, thanks, Jeanette. Yeah, so I was going to say, we moved to an online process, and it does some, every client's a little bit different. Somewhere it's really quick, sometimes it takes a little bit longer. It depends on how complex your business is but you have to really stick to the process. And it's okay to come back to PIDC after, we actually encourage that. It's actually a lot easier for us to work with returning clients because we already have that history. We have that, that trust, right? It's and it's typically a lot faster because it's just, we already understand who you are. We have a lot of your historical documents ready. So this is just not just for you, Jeanette, but for everyone else who is a returning client for PIDC or existing client. You're always welcome to come back. It's not you shouldn't be ashamed of that. Every business needs a do change over time. The growth opportunities, they present themselves differently over time, and sometimes you just need additional capital to pursue that. So yeah, we can totally we'll be happy to work with you again. Natasha, can I ask you the same question? Yeah. Did you try applying financing elsewhere? Because I know you have more of a, I guess, your business also, you're second generation owner. So did you already have access to capital somewhere, or can you give a little history about that?
Yeah, I can. First, I wanted to say thank you very much, Lynn, for your kind words and just kind of giving a little bit more history behind Strother Enterprises. And something he said was consistent. and that's what we've been. We've been very consistent over the last 30 plus years, but it's been very slow growth. But we've grown. We've grown over the years, but it's been slow. But we've been consistent along the way. So I appreciate those words, and so Ernie's my dad and Bob is my uncle. So just that's who it is. So before coming to PIDC, we're in some larger contracts with some with a major partner here in Philadelphia. And so we would borrow internally from that major partner. And at some point, and repay through operations. And at some point, we said, okay, we need to be able to go ahead and borrow on our own and do things and borrow on our own. So when the opportunity came up to own the Subway franchise, we said, okay, how can we do this? We initially went to our major bank, the bank that we had been working with for probably over 20 plus years, and they couldn't support the opportunity. And at the time I was part of 10KSB cohort 3. And part of that process is that, okay, well, we can work with PIDC also. And we know food and beverage is risky. Most banks will not touch food and beverage. It's very risky. So, I heard things like, again, it's risky. You need a co-lender. You don't have enough assets. And again, especially in the type of food and beverage that we do, where we go into other clients' facilities, we don't typically own the assets. You don't typically own all the equipment in there, or you go into a facility and you manage it. So that's always a challenge. So on top of that, then you have to have, even though from our perspective, Strother Enterprises is an established business, but then now you have the owners, they have to now use their homes and put up collateral and do all these things just to get funding. So, and I'm not saying that doesn't happen with PIDC or anything, but what came out of it is, we were able to work with PIDC. They understood the opportunity, and they gave us the opportunity to borrow from them so that we could grow. We could grow independently. It's nothing wrong with, with the ventures and partnerships that we have, but we want to continue to grow independently and do other things on our, grow independently. So from that, we were able to establish our relationship with PIDC, get the funding for the airport opportunity in 2014. And then 3 years later in 2017, we opened another Subway location, and PIDC helped fund that one also. So we partner with PIDC and United Bank of Philadelphia to make those opportunities come to life. So we've had a very long relationship with them. And like everyone else said, Marla has been fantastic working with us and exploring different strategies to get financing, and also making us think about other ways to think about raising money when it's time to explore other growth opportunities. So she's just been fantastic. The whole PIDC team. I can tell you from the first time we worked with Joan Doherty. I know she's passed away since then. But she was phenomenal, just helping us through the paperwork and getting us through the process. So when the larger banks that we've had these long-standing relationships with said no to us, PIDC and United Bank came through and assisted us with our continued growth.
Thanks, Natasha, for that. Yeah, we're very lucky to have a lot of dedicated staff at PIDC that have been there for, in some cases, more than 40, up to 40 years, or maybe not past 40 years. So, and it's almost like a family that way, because there's so much to that institutional knowledge, and people really stick around. So I'm really glad to be a part of it. And I think Jasmine can probably say the same. Yeah, so thank you for that testimony. That was really helpful. My next question was about, what ways did PIDC assist your business? This is for Paycheck and Lynn, but it sounds like you already kind of gave us that information. Can you tell us a little about, I know you sounded like, Paycheck for you helps you hire people, but what was more the longer term benefits of that? It's like having that capital, because I know it's, hiring people, yes, that's great, and it's paying for the payroll, but what did that allow your business to do? Why don't we start off with that?
Yeah, so what having that capital up front helped us operationally was get a team in place without having that extra stress and worry of, where's the next amount of cash coming from for the next payroll and the next payroll, and it allows you, similar to what 10KSB did for the business, like taking you out of the day-to-day and focusing on strategy, was to be able to just really focus on what you needed to do, what we needed to do in terms of training and getting everything prepped to get the business up and running as quickly as possible in that transition from False Flowers to Vault and Vine, from an old space to a new space, with a majority of a brand new team. And having the money in the bank allowed us to just operate really smoothly for those first 6 months without, just scrambling on top of it. And the ability to have that extra focus on the work that was at hand really played a huge role in us being successful, from the start, as opposed to, I think when I started False Flowers, we started with like $5,000 and just had to really bootstrap it one day at a time. It took 4 or 5 years before I even hired my first payroll person. And so going from that to just having that money in place to put it all together was huge, made a really big difference for us.
Thanks for that, Pecha. How about you, Lynn? I know yours, we helped you with the new development in West Parkside. Can you tell me a little about, tell us, the audience, how's that going to help you get your business to the next level?
Yeah, certainly, Arthur. I just want to give a couple of words of advice too, though,
Sure.
on getting to that point. So maybe I'll start and I'll go backwards a bit. And in the West Parkside project, PIDC was, astounding to me. The whole organization was very, very supportive. Kind of surprisingly to me. With our project, and PIDC became a great anchor partner. So PIDC was able, we've got a $23 million building project. PIDC was phenomenal at being one of the anchor financiers for our new market tax credits. And I think PIDC came in at about syndicated $5 or $6 million. PIDC was also very, very responsive to supporting us, and continues to, with additional working capital loans and additional financing from various programs and projects that they have, which was great. But I'll say to some of the individuals listening also that, but for people like the Enterprise Center, Della Clark, being able to lend us at a time when we were in really tight constraints, $150,000 at certain points of our development of our company, we would not have ever made it to that point. But for the West Philadelphia Financial Services Organization, Jim Burnett's group, CDCs, those are places that if individuals are developing, is a resource for capital. That lent us $100,000 at a very critical point. We always, I like to say, if we can't get over the bridge, they got us over different bridges, we wouldn't be here today. Wouldn't have never qualified to gotten to the point for PIDC, but for the Pennsylvania Minority Business Development Authority, PMBDA, lending us at a very critical time in our development, $100,000. We would not be here today. And of course, one of the big issues are the fact that many of our banks that we were banking with and banking all types of dollars still refuse to provide dollars to us. And then what's so disparaging is that half the time when they finally start to come around, they want to do it through the SBA. instead of direct. So those are some of the issues that we have faced. And but for us using friends and family, other individuals to help finance us at early points in our development, we would not be here today. So I want to say those things. PIDC wound up coming through big time with supporting us on the acquisition of the land that we purchased from PIDC. And again, being a stalwart when we were pulling together other financial institutions to support our project. The fact that PIDC held fast even when we had issues with some banks and some appraisers. We had a situation where one of the banks hired an appraisal company from Reading, and they came into Philadelphia and they almost scuttled our deal because they didn't understand the Philadelphia market, and they figured that our warehouse was going to be, they priced it as if we were in the sticks in North Philadelphia somewhere versus the outskirts of University City. And they were, in our opinion, biased and out of touch with this area. The reinvestment fund was very productive. I mean, they came in and supported with PIDC, our company. So PIDC from the top, from the top of corporate management and executive management, rather, at PIDC, down to the individuals that we dealt with all throughout, were very, very supportive of our project.
Thanks for that, Lynn. Yeah, it's great to hear that we were very helpful in your project, and I think that does happen, unfortunately, with a lot of appraisal companies, not only for Black-owned businesses, but also that they don't operate in the cities that they're going to evaluate, essentially. So yeah,
And I
that
just
is one
want
of the
to add
challenges.
one other concept before I get off this call.
Sure.
For all the small business individuals out there as well, Kenyatta's organization, Page, Jeff Hornstein, they were very instrumental in getting PI, and allowing us rather to develop our enterprise to the point where we were even more attractive as a borrower to PIDC, because Page was instrumental in helping us achieve some of the major contracts that we won. So I would say to others out there, really look at the PAG, the Page Initiative that Kenyatta is attached to. They are a very legitimate organization that has focused on major anchor institutions in the Philadelphia region to encourage them to contract with local business enterprises. And even for Struthers and some of the others, as a matter of fact, Page has placed a lot of pressure on Airmark and some of these other major players, and on the universities and certain other major institutions in the Philadelphia region, and to contract with and encourage and force contracts with local enterprises. And if you can develop your contracting and your business opportunities as well, then that is going to lead to greater opportunities to obtain capital.
Thanks for that, Lynn. So let's wrap up with our final question here before we go to question and answers. I'll start with you, Jeanette. Can you give some words of advice on how to raise capital effectively from your experience? You're on mute, Jeanette.
Yeah, I think that is kind of putting a document together that really highlights your business. When requesting the funds, and actually, and we didn't learn this till much later in the business, but asking for the funds when you don't really need them,
Mhm.
you know, in preparation for like when an opportunity comes that you have that available. When you're responding to, you know, a proposal or, you know, gathering information, that it's well organized, that, you know, you're providing all the information that is being requested of you in an organized way, because I think that will help get the funding faster. And then banking with a bank that is taking the time to learn about you and your business, or, you know, understanding what your business cycle is. And I think that PIDC really understands and takes the time to look at how your business works, you know, what the cash flow is, how, you know, what that cycle looks like, which I think is very important in terms of reducing the stress and reducing the pressures of, you know, somebody not understanding that, you know, the work that we do for actuarial services is cyclical, or if we're doing a benefit fairs and communicating, you know, benefits to a work site, that, you know, that happens usually, you know, the fourth quarter, and knowing that, you know, payments won't come till the first quarter. So I think that's really important in terms of, you know, when you're going to ask for funds, or when you're putting something together, that you understand what that cycle is, so then you can articulate that. So, you know, that the lender, or, you know, like in this case, you know, PIDC, they got it. You know, they got like, okay, this is how your workflow goes. And I think
Mhm.
that's extremely important to, because, you know, as small businesses, we have so many other challenges that we're dealing with and facing every single day. You know, as Petra mentioned, you know, in terms of like worrying about that next payroll, you know what I mean? It's like, okay, you know, I should have gotten paid, especially, you know, and I'll give this short example, you know, during the pandemic, you know, we were getting paid, you know, within 30 days of contracts, and, you know, large organizations that we were subcontracting with, you know, they decided that in the middle of a pandemic, when everybody's going through a crisis, you know, they decided to change their policy in terms of payment. And so instead of paying us 30 days, they were extending it to 90 and
Ouch.
120 days,
Mm,
you know, so talk about added stress, right?
mm,
And so, you know, because they wanted to keep their books looking good, you know, in the middle of a pandemic, like if, you know, nothing is happening and, you know, people are not going through it together. So, you know, there have been many challenges, but I think that, you know, just the communication and really being upfront, and you know, having that, because you're essentially educating people about your business and how it works, and what the intricacies are of, you know, when money comes in and when money goes out, and how it comes in, and, you know, what you do to get that money. So I think that it's really understanding your business and the cycle of money, how it comes in and out.
Thanks for those thoughts, Jeanette. How about you, Natasha? Can you give me words of advice on how to raise funds effectively?
Yeah, so I want to, you know, when I think about this question, I'm thinking mainly from a debt financing standpoint. And so for me, I kind of would piggyback off of what Jeanette said. For me, it was very important for us to sit down with whatever institution you're going to go to, or I'm going to say PIDC, and just talk through what you're trying to achieve. Like, here's what I want to do. This is the objective. And then get a strategy on how to get the funding. You may need only this amount, or you may need this type of funding for this. So I would advise to sit down, talk about your objectives, talk about your needs, and then develop a strategy and plan to get the best resources or best product for your project. And again, that's just from a debt financing. I'm sure you can do it from an equity But from this standpoint, I'm referring to that. And so just making sure that, if you have other tools, whether you're using QuickBooks or other financial platforms, making sure you have some of your, not some, your financial information at hand, and then you can share it and review it. So I'm using some of those tools that, is helpful also.
Thanks for that, Natasha. How about you, Pecha? Any words of advice, again, how to raise money effectively? And also, you can also touch upon about what financial tools you use to help you stay organized.
Sure. Everything in addition to Jeanette and Natasha. Jeanette, you mentioned, applying before you desperately need it really struck, I think as business owners, besides keeping up day to day, we're trying to see ahead and knowing what's down the road and knowing what your plans are and planning ahead and getting all those ducks in a row before you hit that wall is crucial. For us, in addition, I've been really fortunate to have an incredible bookkeeper and accountant team, and that makes a huge difference in just, being able to pull all your paperwork together really quickly, having everything at your fingertips. We use QuickBooks Online, which is, like Natasha said, it's a great tool because you can pull your reports really quickly. But having all the paperwork will expedite getting those loans, through much faster. And my last one is really, it's what we're all doing here today, right? It's networking. It's having that network and access to the people who can connect you to someone who can help you for your specific needs. Makes also finding financing much, much easier.
Thanks for that, Pecha. And last but not least, how about you, Lynn? Any parting words of advice on how to raise funds effectively?
Well, diligence. Well, actually diligence. Got to have diligence. Got to have staying ability, and it's necessary to have creativity. My philosophy is when a problem occurs, don't get absorbed with the problem. Think about the solution, and think about alternative methods. And also sometimes we have to try to hold the lender's feet to the fire. Keep in mind that there are some times that we've got to go upstairs to others in the organization if we're having a problem at the lower level. But creativity is the important thing. I think, I kind of mentioned that there's always alternatives to getting to the point in terms of looking at all the alternatives. Now, also, I'll say one other thing about the tech center. And Natasha mentioned debt as a means of raising capital. Della has a new fund that's an equity fund, and most of us don't really understand equity, but the concept of equity is that it's quote unquote patient capital. I can go borrow $500,000 or $1 million or something like that, and have to start paying principal and interest right away. Or I can go to someone like Della, who's not a shark or a usury organization, because we got to be very, very careful of them. Okay, they're the individuals that come in and take over your company, and you'll wind up being a glorified employee. But if you can get adequate capital, reasonable equity capital, then it means maybe you don't have to pay the principal back for 5 years, and it'll give time to build up a long-range project and grow your company, and then you can really exit them back out of your company. So those are some of the things. I want to just give one kudo comment to Fran McNeil. And I just want to let you know that Ken spoke about you very dearly, and was very appreciative of the level of professionalism and guidance that you provided to the 10K members and that he learned some really good, he amassed some great tools to even help us during the acquisition of IMSCO, just technically. So I just want to say that, all right, before I forget.
Thanks, Lynn. Thanks for those kind words. All right, let's open up to question and answers from the audience. Did any come in? I don't actually see any in the Q&A section. Now's the time to put your questions in the Q&A. I didn't see any in the chat. Anyone in the audience have any questions? Oh, there's one. There's one from Kumar. Is PIDC better for a particular type of loan? Good question. So I can answer that. There is, well, there's two types of loans I think we're really good at it and providing and getting approved. Is one is a working capital and equipment loan that helps you receive a term loan that you can use to pay for inventory, equipment, payroll, really any type of any type of purpose that, except for purchasing real estate. So it's a really more flexible loan, purchase against supplies, inventory, equipment, to help you again stay and grow in Philadelphia. That's really our goal, and that's what we're trying to help you to do with these funds. There's also some PIDA funds, so PIDA. It's Pennsylvania Industrial Development Authority, I think that's what it stands for. So it's on the Commonwealth Harrisburg side. That is very low interest financing for equipment. So we can also leverage, like we're talking about rates of about 3%, maybe 3.5% now because it's going up. But before the rates went up, it was 2.5%, 2.75%. So really below market rates. That's kind of indirectly through PIDC, but that's something we can provide. That's again very low interest. In terms of like infrastructure, we do have a commercial mortgage loan. That's probably been only available for the past 3 years, but it's also very popular now. It helps businesses purchase a property, perhaps the one that already been long time leasing. They have a purchase opportunity to do that, or to purchase a property nearby. I think in Lynn Thomas's case, he accessed other financing that was for larger projects, but for the typical small business that's purchasing property under $1 million, the commercial mortgage should work. So that's a great product for that. Any other questions? If there's no more questions and we're
I had a quick question for
sure. Is that Kenyatta?
Natasha. Yeah. You mentioned the live casino, and I've noticed just kind of through my experience that a lot of minority businesses got opportunities, whether it was in the construction or in the running of that casino project. I'm curious how you got involved and if you had any thoughts about how to structure things like that in the future to be more open to smaller minority businesses.
So I guess just to make sure I'm hearing you correctly, you're kind of want to know like what can it look like outside of the construction services, like what? Okay, so I want to go back to the convention center business. When we started with the convention center back in the late 80s, early 90s, there's always been this push around construction. And one thing with Strother, we're like, well, we're an ongoing service. So once construction is over, like, what are you guys doing for, for these ongoing services? So it really starts with these relationships up front and kind of, I want to say mandate, but, mandating participation beyond the construction world and dealing with the decision makers. Because even with live casino, we had to start, just building our own relationships with the family to say, hey, we're here, we're local, we're Philadelphia, we want to be involved beyond, we're not a construction company, we are a food service company. We want to be involved with food. So it started from that level, and then also working with, just getting support from city council, whoever's in that area, just, supporting Strother and saying, yes, this is actually a lot of people from city council supported us, saying, yes, this has been a company that's been in Philadelphia for 30 years. So it starts with those relationships and educating them on these different ongoing services that go beyond construction. So that would be my advice. Just if you can build those relationships, build them early, like during the construction process, before the construction process, to say, here are some of our goals and this is what we want. I think that's helpful.
Jeanette, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I had a question, I guess, for Kenyatta, and I guess the sponsors, right? And it's almost like what Natasha said in terms of being a local business, being a Philadelphia resident, trying to maintain and support our own economy versus having outside companies come in to provide service and then taking those funds outside of the city. And so as a professional services, company where we're providing, investment advice, insurance, retirement, benefits, how to kind of gain access to, like, let's say the University of Pennsylvania and Temple University. And because oftentimes, being a small business, Philadelphia resident and housed in Philadelphia, oftentimes those professional services are taken outside of the city, which it makes it very difficult for us. And to the extent that we're doing business more in Virginia and in Maryland than in our own city. And I feel as though, we're not getting the support, we've been in business 20 years. We've been in business in Philadelphia for 20 years. And, how to break those barriers in terms of like showcasing, what we're doing and the experience that we have. And it's almost like, so you have like the construction, right? The construction piece, it's a tangible thing. It's office supplies, or that it's tangible things. But with professional services, it's a service, right? How do we gain access to those folks to let us in the door? Where outside of the city, people are like, yeah, like they have very strong, and I think that, oftentimes, most of the times we are subcontractors to, let's say, a prime company, right? That is providing a service and they have minority participation goals. And so, we're kind of being showcased that way, but there's some things that we can do as prime, and, there's missed opportunity, within our own community to help support us. And I'm not, it becomes, it's a little disheartening to kind of, you're knocking at the door, looking from the outside in, seeing everybody else outside of Philadelphia getting in the door, and I'm open for any suggestions, any support.
So I've got a long and a short answer. The short answer is, call me and I'll continue to follow up and work with you on this. We know a lot of these people's bosses and we can put some pressure in the right places. The long answer is, on the professional services side, it is really difficult to find opportunities within the city, because the professional services at the big institutions are not centralized at all, right? So a certain department might be buying something, a certain location might be buying something, and they all might be buying different things, which makes it way more difficult on a professional services side. So if I give an example, think of a hospital in the city. There's probably one person that runs the real estate and construction department for all new projects. So they can centralize all of the efforts on minority spend on real estate and construction.
Mm.
Each department can purchase their own people to do a whole bunch of professional services related activities. So therefore, in order to change that effectively, we have to know the right person and have their commitment at each department, which is just really difficult when you have such large institutions. So it becomes kind of a hassle. What I will say, and I'm gonna throw Chuck a little bit under the bus here, but the corporations in the city, like Independence Blue Cross, um, Emeritus, some of the others, even to a certain extent, Pico, um, they are a bit more centralized in the way that they purchase most things than the colleges and hospitals. So many times, if you can start with them and build that reputation there, then we can easily make the case in that argument with the hospital or the college. Because what they always want to say is like, oh, well, who else works with them? Who else? And it's like, if none of you give people a chance, then they don't work with any of you. But we've been able to get some really great contracts on the IT side by pulling from the group that Chuck has put together around IT services. And basically we say, yeah, they work with Independence Blue Cross, and everyone goes, oh, okay, well, yeah, we should give them a chance, right? Because at that point, what else can you say? And it might not be, independence for your business's case, but many times if we can find one of the if we can build a strong relationship with Aramark, that might be easier than building the exact same relationship with the facilities and food providers at Penn, CHOP, Drexel, Temple, right? And then we can build on that to get into those doors once that relationship is there. Because yeah, it is frustrating. And I think that the problem that everyone sees in Philadelphia is that it's a bunch of little fiefdoms that buy whatever they want from whoever they know. And it ends up in this super decentralized position where everyone's like, oh, well, I used to work here. And, I was recruited from North Carolina. And this is my buddy from high school. And he runs a business that does this thing. And I run this department. So I'm going to go with this business. Like we get a lot of little stuff like that in the large nonprofit, not-for-profit world. And it can be really frustrating. And I think Paige is making a lot of these changes, but it's going to take time. And a lot of times it means us going to the leaders and saying, hey, you committed to this, right? You at CHOP, Jefferson, wherever, you committed to moving these numbers. What's standing in the way is your 5 department heads over here. And you have to put pressure on them to make change, which of course they don't like to do, right? Like there's not a lot of direct force and they don't really want to be seen as the bad guys. They need to lead large institutions. But sometimes it just comes down to that.
Right. And I appreciate that response. And I'll just bring up, like, so as I mentioned, we do subcontracting work for prime companies. The places that we have seen success is where the client knows that they have the power to say to these prime companies, you will have minority participation. And if it is less than 15%, then don't bother participating in the RFP process. And those are the places where the client or the buyer has the power to support. And I feel as though sometimes these organizations don't understand the power that they have to prime companies to say, this is important to us. And if you're not interested in participating, or if you are thinking about asking for a waiver, it's not going to fly here. And so, just seeing a little more of that within the city, confines to help support small businesses, I think it goes a long way, because now, you're letting people up front know that this is important. This is an important process to, help small businesses within our community to keep our dollars here.
100%.
Thank you for that, Kenyatta.
Chuck, do you have any words to say?
Yeah, I do. One of the things that I think is important to look at is, if you wait until an RFP comes out to meet a decision maker, it's too late. It's way, way, way too late. What you need to be doing is attending events like the Page has, where they have virtual matchmakers and hopefully in person when the pandemic's finally over, to meet the decision makers that have committed to drive increase, spend in different areas. There's also one with the Greater Philadelphia Chamber of Commerce called the Diverse Procurement Collaborative, doing similar work in a little different way, but very similar to what Kenyatta is doing. So I think you need to meet decision makers at that level. And again, if you wait for the RFP, it's too late. And, a lot of big institutions, there is no RFP. It could be a direct award. And diverse businesses enjoy quite a bit of the direct awards at Independence, and I'm sure at other companies in the region. And the other thing I would say is don't focus on one company. Don't say, I have to get work at Independence. I have to get work at Caritas. I have to get work at Penn. That's not going to work for you. You're going to spend all your resources on someone that might not be interested or doesn't even buy what you're selling. Like I had a supplier call once yelling on the phone. They wanted me to buy something from them. And I couldn't even get in the conversation to be able to say, we don't buy what you sell, not because we don't like you. We just don't buy those products. We just don't have a need for those products. So I think what you need to do is some of those networking events, I think I'd highly encourage you to go to. And then when you find the niche with one of those, organizations, I think that's the way I would grow your business. And we all talk, all the businesses that are part of the Page Initiative, GPLEC, the Diverse Procurement Collaborative at the Greater Philadelphia Chamber. I would highly recommend that you connect with those organizations because you're going to find the Comcast, Aramark, you're going to find Independence, Caritas, all the universities, find some of the right contacts there.
And I would just,
I gotta say, it's marketing. The marketing has to happen. And I think you'll be able to, small businesses and diverse businesses, there's plenty of good ones out there. You just have to use them. So I think it's just getting your marketing materials, doing a one-page crisp description of your organization, not more than that, and sharing that with decision makers could have a huge impact.
and I would just add to ask your clients, our best recommendations are when someone like Chuck is like, hey, I had a great experience with XYZ business. Do you have anything else for them? That makes it so easy to go and find work for that person. And many times those go right from one anchor to another, where CHOP is reaching out to Penn Hospital System and saying, do you have someone that does this, that, and this well, who's a minority business? And Penn is like, yeah, here's a name. Here's who you should reach out to. And it just makes the entire connection easier.
Thank you.
Jeanette, I'd be happy to talk to you too offline. I think my contacts
Yes.
on the slide. Just send me a note. We'll talk. Just
Okay, great.
mention that we met on this call. I get more emails.
lot.
I can follow.
Yes.
Okay. Be happy
Understood.
to talk to you more.
Sure. Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
And that's one of the reasons why we're having this webinar is making those connections. And I think those early introductions, because, as we've talked about, those are really matter. Let's go to the next slide and let's wrap things up with some parting thoughts from our partners. Fortunately, Marla Hamilton is not here today. Chuck, so I think you've already hinted on some things that vendors or just companies should do. Do you have any other words of advice to wrap up?
I would just say focus on networking, marketing, and being very intentional when you reach out. Be very crisp and be able to say, this is exactly what I do, so that the receiver of the information understands what your company provides.
Thanks, Chuck. How about you, Sharon? Any words of advice to share? Is Sharon still here? She might have to go. How about Kenyatta? How about I'll go to you.
Yeah, I think I shared a lot of my words of advice, but definitely work with your existing clients. The world is smaller than you think it is. And when you have, a great relationship with one organization, if it's the Enterprise Center, PIDC, whoever else it might be, one of the minority chambers, EMSDC, use them to reach out to the rest of the business support community. We all know each other. We're all kind of aware of what everyone else is doing. And if we can't support you exactly in the way that you need, we can make the introduction to the person who can much of the time. And the same thing with your clients. They might be your best salespeople. So just don't be afraid to ask, and definitely push and try to connect as much as you can.
Thanks for that, Kenyatta. And Gideon, why don't you wrap it up for us, or parting thoughts, and also bring us home, because let's wrap it up and perhaps give a small plug for Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Businesses. Oh, Gideon, you're on mute, or I can't hear you.
How about now?
There you
All
go.
right, here we go. Thank you, everybody. My advice, Arthur, is for everyone to join the 10KSB program that hasn't joined it already. I believe the program does wonders for the small business community in the greater Delaware Valley. Our 4 panelists talked very well about the program. They went through the program and they've seen the benefits to it. And I'm going to put the...
Oh, you're on mute. And then you press showing your keyboard. Oh, we can't hear you. But okay, we see the link.
Can you do it now? Can you hear
Yes,
me now?
I can hear you now.
Sorry about that, gang. Well, there's the qualifications over there. And I believe that one of the participants is actually already is going through the process of joining the program.
Great.
I can be easily reached. I'm the only person named Gideon in the greater Delaware Valley that represents this program. And I'm here to help you take this journey with you so you can be part of the 10KSB community. And I will mute my mic now.
Thanks, Gideon. If you go next slide, I want to thank all our panelists and our partners for joining us today. I think we had a great exchange of ideas and, and topics about how to build those relationships that get you to financing, how to, stay persistent, be creative. That's what my takeaways are. Working on your business, not in your business. So all these are like really key elements you need to listen to and to practice to really get your business to the next level and get the access to financing. So PIDC is one of those options. You can also look at other CDFIs, community development financial institutions. Obviously PIDC is a great one because I work for the organization. I used to also work for the Enterprise Center. That's also another great organization, provides finance for small businesses. There's others as well. But those are great. That's a great start for accessing capital for your business. Our website, again, is pidcphila.com. You'll learn more about upcoming events and also our products, our lending products. So thank you again to our partners and our panelists. Thank you for giving us your valuable time to share your wisdom, your thoughts today, and have a great rest of your day. Thank you again for everyone for attending. All right.
All the same, Arthur. Thanks.
Thanks, Lynn. All right. Take care, everybody. Thanks for joining. Bye.